Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna. Okay, so who's leading Kirtan? Few minutes, 2-3 minutes at least. Yeah, will be good for us.
Hare Krishna. Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Nimapad.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripurajaka Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Prabhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Mukund Radha Kumikiri Gurudhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samarita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Do we jump right in? Is that what happens?
Yes.
Okay. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya
Shri Gurave Namaha.
Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutade Swayam Rupa Padamahyam Dadhati Shapadam. I think we need to mute everybody unless we want to enjoy nice music and other such things. There we go. Thank you. Now, am I just covering verse 1, or tell me what my instructions are, please?
Cover as many verses as you like, but at least one.
At least one, okay, not less. Thank you. Om Jnana Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshrimilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave. This is chapter 17 of Bhagavad Gita, the divisions of faith, Shraddha Traya Vibhag Yoga. Arjuna Vacha, Yen Shastra Vidimutsrijya Yajante Shraddhayan Vitaha Tesham Nishta Tuka Krishna Satyamaho Rajastamaha. The previous chapter ended. I just want to see one thing here. Yeah, that's what I thought. The previous chapter ended by Krishna's saying, Ye Shastra Vidimutsrijya Yajante Vartate Kamakarataha Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti Nasukam Na Paramgatim. If one gives up the directions of Shastra, if one doesn't follow the directions of Shastra, Vartate Kamakarta, and he just acts according to his own whims, his own desires, Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti, he won't attain perfection. Nasukam, he won't even be happy. And Naparamgatim, and what to speak of going back home, back to Godhead. Tasmat, therefore, Shastra Pramanam Te Karya Karya Vyavastato. One should know what is to be done and what is not to be done from the Shastra. Shastra Gyatva Vidhanoktam Karma Kartum Viharasi. One should act according to the direction of Shastra. One should know what the Shastric direction is, and one should act accordingly so that he can be elevated. So that's that's the conclusion. One has to act according to the direction of Shastra. Shastra means the law. Shas, it comes from the verbal root shas, which means to control. So you get Shastra, the controlling directions from the Lord, and Shastra, weapons, Shishya, a disciple, one who agrees to be controlled. So one should agree to follow the controlling directions of the Shastra. But now Arjuna has a question. Yea, Shastra Vidimutsrijya Yajante Shraddhayanvita. What about people who give up the directions of the Shastra? They don't follow it, but Yajante, they do perform worship, Shraddhayanvita, with faith. They have faith in some process, they follow that process. What about them? Tesham Nishta Tuka Krishna. What kind of faith do they have? Sattvamaho Rajastama. Is it in goodness? Is it in passion? Is it in ignorance? Where do these people stand? That's the question. In the purport, in the 4th chapter, 39, it is said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually becomes elevated to the stage of knowledge and attains the highest perfectional stage of peace and prosperity. In the 16th chapter, it is concluded that one who does not follow the principles laid down in the scriptures is called an asura, demon, and one who follows the scriptural injunctions faithfully is called a deva. Vishnu bhakta smita daiva asuras tadviparyo. Now, if one with faith follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions, what is his position? This doubt of Arjuna's is to be cleared by Krishna. Are those who create some sort of God by selecting a human being and placing their faith in him, worshiping in goodness, passion, or ignorance? Do such persons attain the perfectional stage of life? Is it possible for them to be situated in real knowledge and elevate themselves to the highest perfectional stage? To those who do not follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but who have faith in something and worship gods and demigods and men, attain success in their effort? Arjuna is putting these questions to Krishna. I just received a question a day or so back from one young devotee lady, relatively newcomer. She's come in touch with some group of Hare Krishna devotees who are not in ISKCON and who appear to be following very sincerely. They're worshiping the deities, they're distributing books, they're chanting Hare Krishna. They seem to be practically the same, only they have the idea that they're all Prabhupada's disciples, even though they were initiated as his disciples sometime after 1977. So then the question comes, well, if they're sincerely following the process, won't they attain the result? Why not? They're doing everything. So it's kind of my good fortune, because I haven't answered her question yet, that you've assigned me this verse, because it speaks to these issues. The Shraddhayanvitas, to be noted, that the people Arjuna is asking about are people who are faithfully doing something. They're not just, whatever. They have faith in something, and they're following something. So do they get the same result? If not, why not? That's the question. But in the previous chapter, Krishna has already said, if they're not following the Shastras, nasasiddhim avapnoti nasukam naparangatim. They won't go back to Godhead. They won't attain happiness. They won't attain perfection. So where are they then? Are they in goodness? Are they in passion? Are they in ignorance? Krishna will answer that question. Any questions so far? You're welcome to raise your hand or to unmute yourself and ask, or throw something in the chat box. Everyone is welcome to participate.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, can you hear me? Please accept my humble obeisances. All praise to Srila
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you very much.
But if you'd like, you can turn on your video too, then we get to see.
One second.
I think you may have two different people and two different things, because we're hearing an echo.
Oh, I have to mute myself so that you don't get that echo.
Oh, I don't know if it's you or if it's the same person in his house as two people.
No, actually am the only one. Can you hear me now, Pyariman Prabhu?
Yes, now it's good.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for addressing this topic. When I heard you were giving the class, I was tempted to talk on this topic, but you yourself started. I had a co-worker who was working with me, who came from California, who was chanting one round, and he was introduced to the process by this group that you're talking about, Krishna Balaram Mandir in California. However, when he came to me, then we had more association. He started chanting 16 rounds, but like you said, he felt they were also sincere, and he continued to associate with them. And one day, when Bhakti Charu Swami left, he forwarded one message about Bhakti Charu Swami to the group, and they were very upset. And then he started figuring out their animosity to the great Vaishnavas and about their process. And he himself came and confessed that they're trying to kick me out of this group, Prabhu. But he said they were telling him that Prabhupada himself has told that if he is the guru, and if you don't understand, you keep on reading his books, and one day you'll understand. So from their perspective, they think they are following the Shastra. So how do we understand this, Maharaj? Maharaj, you're on mute. Yeah.
Thinking doesn't make it so. That's the problem that we face here. It's not that if I think I'm following the Shastra, then I must be following. For those who want an analysis of the particular arguments that particular group has put forward, you can look on my website, jswami.info, and there's a tab there someplace that says about unusual doctrines, and you'll find my papers on the subject. But Krishna will answer that question, that you may think that you're following the Shastra, but you actually have to follow. There's nothing in Shastra that says that the Shastra says you follow the disciplic succession. It doesn't say anything about this succession coming to an end and then you jump over and whoever's wherever you want, you just plug in. That doesn't work. Even if you think so, it doesn't work because it's contrary to Shastra. Even if you think, no, there was a letter, it said that henceforward these 11 people can initiate on my behalf. All right, if you think that, then still there's only 11. So you have to go to one of those 11 henceforward. You can't go anyplace else. Otherwise, you're inventing something. Anyway, there's so many problems with their I call it creative managerial theology. They create some doctrine that fits their concept of management, and then we have to accept that this is the philosophy. So many problems are there. But the conclusion is that it's not in accord with the Shastra, nor the Guru, who they claim to be disciples of, nor the saintly persons, whom, as your friend noticed, they are inclined to blaspheme. So just before we leave this group aside and go back to our main thread here, I've given an example about their situation, because we see they're distributing books, they're chanting Hare Krishna, they're worshiping the deity very nicely, they collect funds, they distribute prasadam, they get recognition from high government officials. There's so many wonderful things that we see about them. And I have to acknowledge that all those things are true. I only see two defects. They've deviated from the philosophy, and they blaspheme and offend the Vaishnavas. Otherwise, they're great and tick off all the boxes. So my example is that this is something like there's a woman And she's beautiful. She's cultured. She comes from a good family. She's healthy. She's affectionate. She's a good cook. Not a good cook. She's all these other things. She's well educated. But she has only two defects. She can't cook, and she's not chaste. But apart from that, she's a jewel. So we can decide whether this is a girl we'd marry. All splendid qualities, but she can't cook and she's not chaste. So similarly, all wonderful achievements, but deviating from the philosophy and offending the Vaishnavas. All right, back to does that answer your question, by the way?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much for that particular analogy you gave at the end.
I have another question. Well, I have one question. We mentioned about sadhus and shastra means following. Now, following doesn't mean following everything, because nowadays there seems to be devotees who don't like certain things in the scriptures, and they think they may, I don't know, maybe they're mistakes, or maybe Prabhupada shouldn't have put them in. And so what about, where is somebody like that situated?
Well, it's hard to drill down on that tactfully worded question. There's some things that Prabhupada says in Nectar of Devotion are details, and one may not worry too much about details. And then there are other things that are principles that are fundamental, and we're very concerned with those. So that may be one answer that we have to see to that. I don't know how much further I can go because the question is a little bit vaguely.
Okay, I can speak about, there's this whole thing going on.
Maybe it's better vaguely put, but go ahead.
But just about the woman that that some people, at least one person, said that Prabhupada seems to be culpable to the problems that there are, because the way the woman.
Well, that's not a very respectful comment, is it? What should I say about that? That Prabhupada's to blame. Culpable means blameworthy. Right. And Prabhupada's to blame for what? Whatever they want to say. But it's not very wise to lay blame at the feet of the Acharya if one wants to advance in the line of devotional progress. I can say that. That's good. Okay. Anything else?
Maharaj,
Yes.
Am I going?
Yes, we're here.
Earlier you said that the two offenses, that those people who follow Prabhupada have only two offenses, but aren't they big elephant offenses?
Yeah, that was my point. That to deviate from the philosophy and to offend the Vaishnavas, just like a woman, she has all these other good qualities, but she can't cook and she's not chaste. Well, those are what we call deal breakers, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I get it now. Thanks.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dhanmat Pranamal goes to Srila Prabhupada. I have heard the similar explanation from His Grace Sankarshan Das Adhikari. So he was mentioning are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, Maharaj, he was mentioning that I think they have the magazine also that says back to Prabhupada. And he says that magazine is, they blaspheme, they take all the gurus from ISKCON and they start blaspheming, like that magazine is nothing but the all the faults they find in all of the gurus in ISKCON. And I was also want to know, because Maharaj was mentioning that Prabhupada has mentioned this when he was in the planet in his manifest Leela. So he mentioned that he was giving that service to his disciple to initiate on his behalf because he was not very well. But later on, he gave it for 2-3 months. He has said some duration in 1977. But later on, he take that off and he said, no, now I am not going to initiate more disciple. Now you take the responsibility and initiate the disciple. So just wanted to get enlightened on that about Prabhupada, what he mentions.
Well, the history is that Prabhupada wrote a letter on July 9th, 1977, very clearly setting forth that he was asking or authorizing 11 disciples to initiate disciples on his behalf, and that these would be his disciples, not their disciples, and that the names of the disciples should be written in his initiated disciples book, and that these devotees could chant on the beads and perform the yajna and so on. So that Prabhupada set up, and everyone accepted it, everyone understood it, and no one thought that that meant that after Prabhupada's disappearance, such a thing would continue. Everyone at the time understood that it meant that while Prabhupada was present, of course. And then many years later, they came up with this notion that this was somehow an eternal instruction, that from now till the end of Kali Yuga, this is how things should go on. And they hang their argument on one word, henceforward. In that letter, Prabhupada said, henceforward, these 11 will, you can go to whoever's nearest among these 11 and so on. Well, it's sort of a lawyerly argument that they've made, that somehow, because of this one word, henceforward, it really means forever and forever and forever. I've made, at least two arguments to the contrary. One is that it wasn't in Prabhupada's nature to reverse such a basic teaching as the whole process of disciplic succession, and just, sort of hide his opposition to it in one word, henceforward, and not explain that. If Prabhupada had wanted to make such a fundamental change, he would have made it very clear, would have talked about it again and again and again and again, not just hidden it to be discovered later in one word, henceforward. That's point one. Point two is, all right, if we accept your argument, and I've already said this earlier today, if we accept your argument that henceforward these 11 will initiate on my behalf, then all right, live with that. It means these 11. You can't change it. If your argument is we have to follow Prabhupada, what Prabhupada said in this letter is everything, all right, follow the letter. There are 11 authorized Ritviks, and you can approach any one of them. Several of them are no longer in this world, and the others are not very much appreciated by the party in question. And so they've added a 12th and I don't know how many others. Well, you can't do that. Prabhupada said 11. So if this is really your doctrine, stick with it. Of course, it makes no sense, but that's the problem with your argument. It doesn't make sense. Is that all right?
Thank you, Maharaj. Yeah, you made a nice point that if 11s are there, they are not even sticking to them. And they are just, yep. Thank you. Thank you for the explanation.
Mm-hmm. If you'd like more...
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, who's this lady that is related to all these things?
There's one local lady
You were talking about the lady, so who's this lady that is related to these things?
Doesn't really matter. She's a local lady who's part of our congregation here, and she came in touch with people, and so she had questions. She's not, connected to their group or anything. She just innocently came upon them and then thought, well, what's this? And so she had questions, but it doesn't really, it's not that you need to know more than that, I don't think.
No, you were describing her, so that's why I was asking, does she have anything to do with this, whatever you are talking about?
Only that she asked about it, that's it, not more than that.
Oh, okay. I got it. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that, so.
So we've clarified that. In the chat box, you'll find the link to where you can find what I've written about this topic. If you'd like to entertain yourself by reading more about it, you can just follow the link on my website, which is now in the chat box.
So this is what we discussed today, that Prabhupada decided that those 11 people will be chanting and doing their chores, and from now on, right? After what he said in the letter, right?
It meant while he was present.
Okay.
It meant while he was present. Just like if Prabhupada said, henceforward, I'll take my walk on Juhu Beach. It doesn't mean till the end of Kali Yuga.
Oh, okay.
It means while he's present in Bombay.
Okay.
It's not that somehow or other when he goes to Mayapur, still he has to walk on Juhu Beach by some process. Henceforward, just an ordinary word. It doesn't. You don't hide a whole major revision to the philosophy in one word like that. That's not how Prabhupada.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you. And again, if you'd like to read more, the whole story is up there. But by the way, for me, this is kind of old history. They haven't really said anything new in the last so many years, and it's sort of tiresome. But since they're still around, and maybe met them, and because it's relevant to the verse. What about those who have faith in a process, but aren't following the authority of the scriptures? Sanatana Goswami says, no, not Sanatana, Rupa, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidindana Vaikantaki Parir Bhaktir Utpataya Evakopate. Those who are claiming to be performing Hari Bhakti, devotional service, but who don't follow the directions of the Shruti, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, the Pancharatra Vidhi, even though they claim to be following devotional service, they're simply creating a disturbance in the society of devotees. This is the statement of Srila Rupa Goswami. He doesn't say, well, they have faith in something, so, it's good, that's good enough. It's not that if I have faith in something, it must be good. And Krishna will explain that. Arjuna already sort of, anticipates that they're not on the perfect platform, but they're in the modes of nature somewhere. So are they in goodness? Are they in passion? Are they in ignorance? And Krishna will answer that. Anything else?
Maharaj, I have one follow-up question.
Yes.
Particularly, how do we address one of the things they were bombarding on my friend was that, some of I don't know if this is true, but they said some people committed suicide because their guru fell down. And that indicates that they weren't pure enough, and therefore we should only stick with Srila Prabhupada.
I know people who committed suicide even during Prabhupada's presence. Does it mean that, I don't get it.
Saying that their guru fell down, so he wasn't qualified, but acting.
Okay, my guru fell down. My guru fell down, and I committed suicide, and therefore it follows that nobody else has to follow the direction of the scriptures. They can follow something different. Is that the argument?
Yeah, their point is there are no qualified gurus other than Srila Prabhupada in ISKCON.
Yeah, I've answered that in my, again, on the website. If there's no one qualified, then you're out of luck. Too bad. You can't invent that because there's no one qualified, you can make Rupa Goswami your guru, or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, or Srila Prabhupada, or anyone else. Mm-hmm. If there's no one qualified, you're very unfortunate. But, you can't do something else. Like I wanted to marry a girl, but unfortunately she died. And I haven't found any other girl as qualified, so I'll still marry her.
Thank you, Maharaj, for this example.
Okay. Shall we go on to text 2?
Yes.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Trividha Bhavati Shraddha, Dehinam Sa Subhavaja, Satviki Rajasi Chaiva, Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrinu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, according to the modes of nature acquired by the embodied soul, one's faith can be of 3 kinds: in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance. Now hear about this. Purport: those who know the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but out of laziness or indolence give up following these rules and regulations, are governed by the modes of material nature. According to their previous activities in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, they acquire a nature which is of a specific quality. The previous activities means their previous lifetime, they've come to this life, and so with that background, and then they perform more activities in this life in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. The association of the living entity with the different modes of nature has been going on perpetually. Since the living entity is in contact with material nature, he acquires different types of mentality according to his association with the material modes. But this nature can be changed if one associates with a bona fide spiritual master and abides by his rules and the scriptures. Gradually, one can change his position from ignorance to goodness, or from passion to goodness. The conclusion is that blind faith in a particular mode of nature cannot help a person become elevated to the perfectional stage. One has to consider things carefully, with intelligence, in the association of a bona fide spiritual master. Thus, one can change his position to a higher mode of nature. So, Trividha Bhavati Shraddha, Dehinam Sa Subhavaja. Subhavaja means born of one's nature. And I believe it's Baladev who's commented that means the nature that he's acquired over so many lifetimes. Swabhava. Swabhava here means his acquired nature. His real nature is he has nothing to do with material existence. Asango hiyayam purusha. But due to our association with the material energy since time immemorial were infected by these three material modes. Someone more by passion, someone more by goodness, someone more by ignorance, but we're all affected. Dehinam, the embodied conditioned souls are affected in this way. And so they develop Trividha Shraddha, faith according to faith of three kinds. Trividha means yes, of three kinds. Sattviki, Rajasi, Tamasi. Faith that's characterized by goodness, or by passion, or by ignorance. And Krishna will explain more about that in this chapter. Are there questions here?
Hare Krishna Maharaj Ji, Dandavad Pranam. This is Alarnath Das. This might be an unrelated question, but this is related to Shastra.
Yes.
And we should not kill animals, but what about bacteria and other smaller insects? For example, we don't do farming, but we do gardening. Like, I have a question, can I use insecticides?
I think you're really pretty far off the text here.
Yes, yes, Maharaj. But
so
I want your guidance. Where should I find the answer?
You can ask P.R.A. Prabhu. I don't really want a free-for-all class where I just answer any question about anything. I think we want to study the text at hand.
Thank you, Maharaj Ji.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anything else about text 2 or text 1?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for your time today and your wonderful class. Maharaj, I always had this question, and I have got some answers from some devotees. My question is mostly about text 1, the topic that you covered. So we know that there is a group which we call them as Mayavadis. They reject the form of the Lord. And there is this another group that you mentioned, they reject the pure devotees of the Lord. So which one of the two groups are better or worse? I know we should not be making these kind of comparisons, and I have got some answers, like there were reasons which led to forming this deviant group. But what do you think about this, Maharaj?
I think the distinction is probably not worth trying to determine. There's it's said by, I believe, Narottam Das Thakur, Jnana Kanda, Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, Kevala Vishara Kanda. That Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda are two pots of poison. Therefore, Rupa Goswami, Jnana Karmadya Navratam, pure devotional service, is free from karma and jnana. So Narottam Das Thakur says these are two pots of poison. So then if someone says, yeah, I understand that, but which pot is worse? It's like, what's the need to know? They're both poison. So this poison or that poison, they're both poison.
Yes, Maharaj, I understand. I mean, somehow this question always comes to my mind that, but I understand your point, what you're making.
It's like, which is worse? Suicide by cutting your wrist or suicide by hanging?
So, I mean, if you have to, like, other way, you are saying in other way that both are equal. There is no distinction between the two, right? Both are on the same platform.
Equal or not equal, they're both bad. So,
right.
Which wrong turn you want to take? You're trying to get somewhere on the highway. straight way there, and then there's wrong turn number 1 and wrong turn number 2. So you're going to sit there and analyze, well, which wrong turn is worse?
Well, some devotees say that at least they accept Prabhupada and Krishna, so that is good. So,
yeah, but arguably accepting Prabhupada means accepting him as he is and not concocting something.
That's true.
So, again, so an extended analysis of which is worse.
Yeah, I understand, Maharaj. Maharaj, I have one more question about this, not exactly the same topic, but related to Shastra. So we say that we have this triangle of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So, but when we say Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, at least there has to be one which is primary. So which one out of these 3 categories is the primary source? Shastra, right, Maharaj? Okay, that's what, yeah.
The Guru is the person who follows Shastra, the Sadhus are followers of Shastra. Shastra Pramana. Therefore, Krishna says, make Shastra your standard. But then, how do we follow the Shastra? We follow in the footsteps of the Mahajanas. How do we understand the Guru from the Shastra from the Guru? So they're all related, but the what would you say? The supporting principle for the other 2 is the Shastra.
So Shastra is the foundation.
Yeah, the Pramanic Guru is the person who follows Shastra.
But again, there could be different interpretations of the same Shastra. So in that case...
yeah, and then we come again to this point that there's details and there's fundamental principles.
Okay.
So that becomes an extended discussion. First thing is, like in law, you make out your case this way, you make out your case that way, but they both have to refer to the law. You can't make a case and say, well, and the judge says, well, where did you get this idea? Well, I don't know, it just makes common sense. It has to refer to the law.
Right.
The law books are your standard. So devotional service, even if you want to create a deviation, it somehow has to refer to the Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi. Now then, we have to look and say, well, is this an honest understanding of the Shruti, of the Shastra? That's the next thing. And therefore, Prabhupada is given Bhagavad Gita as it is, not without needless interpretation and so on. So that we have to see to. But first thing is, it has to be Shastra.
Understand, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Well, now we're down to only a short time left. I think we can handle one verse more.
Thank you, Maharajji,
Yes.
for all your explanations and your reading. And thank you again for everything. And this is Prita Mataji. I was very glad that you could explain these things so nicely. And thank you again. Have a nice night.
Thank you. We still have a little bit of time left, right?
Okay, sure. I'll listen to that.
Okay. But thank you for the good night anyway. And
good night.
Let's see where we are. If I exit full screen, I'll...
Maharaj, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So in the second verse, the very first sentence, Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he's making a statement which is what Baldev Vidyabhushan made in the previous verse. It appears to me that this question of Arjuna is particularly about those who know the rules but they're lazy to follow. Is that correct understanding, Maharaj?
Well, that's what Prabhupada specifically talks about, but I don't see why we would say that if you don't know what Shastra is, then you're not conducted by the modes of material nature. If you don't know what Shastra is at all, you're certainly going to be conducted by the modes of nature. But even if you have faith, because that's what Arjuna is asked about, what about a person of faith? Krishna says even he is going to be governed by the modes of material nature if he doesn't follow the Shastra.
Maharaj, one thing Baldev Vidyabhushan said in the previous one.
Just like there are people, they're atheists, they have no faith in Shastra, they eat meat, they drink wine. So is that not in the mode of ignorance because somehow or other they didn't know what the Shastra was?
Good point, Maharaj. Yeah. So Baldev Vidyabhushan in the first verse he was saying, because Krishna has already addressed those people as asuras, means those who completely reject the Shastra. Exactly. Therefore, now this question is about those who seemingly know, but out of laziness.
Right. We already got rid of the asuras. We said, Shastra vidamutraja nasasukam abapnoti nasidhim naparam gatim. Those who have no regard for Shastra, who just give it up without consideration, they're not going to get anywhere. But then, therefore, you have to follow the Shastras. But then Arjuna asks, well, what about those who know about the Shastra, but they're too lazy or they don't follow? So then this point comes. So yes, you're right, and thank you for bringing those things up.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Anything else here?
So Maharaj, Shastra is the highest you said, but where does time, place, and circumstance come into place? Is that in the details?
Well, it comes into place too often, in fact. Anyone who wants to deviate can just say time, place, and circumstance, time, place, and circumstance. One has to very carefully consider time, place, and circumstance. Time, place, and circumstance is not a license to disregard everything and say, well, time, place, and circumstance. But one has to, first of all, know what the goal of the Shastra is, know the purpose of the Shastra, and then be mature and thoughtful and properly guided in applying it to the particular place, the particular people. Like, for instance, in Shastra says you should chant on Tulsi beads. Prabhupada came to America, there was no Tulsi. So then, all right, hardware store beads. So that's time, place, and circumstance. But not that, different time, place, and circumstance. So intoxication, gambling, meat eating, illicit. Therefore, these adjustments according to time, place, and circumstance are made carefully by mature and thoughtful devotees, not just whimsically, because I don't really like the direction of Shastra, or because I'm more influenced by my materialistic associates.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
I have a question. Well, you mentioned that Shastra is most important. I'm just thinking when Prabhupada came here, we didn't have any Shastra. There was Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was certainly the most important, and he was the guru. So there are certain people, a lot of people, that they're very attached to Prabhupada and do what Prabhupada wants. And of course, they read Prabhupada's books. But Prabhupada seems to be more important to some devotees than anything else. So what do you think about that?
Well, that's all right, but Prabhupada's always quoting Shastra. He said, that's my qualification, that I'm simply repeating. So it's not to say to minimize the importance of the guru or to somehow disparage those who simply have faith in the guru. If one has faith in a bona fide guru, he may not even know the Shastra very well, but just by his following confidently a bona fide guru, he'll get everything. So that's there. But what is it that makes the guru bona fide? What is it that constitutes his authority? He follows the Shastra. What is it that, where does the Shastra get its authority from? Not from the guru, not from the sadhus. Dharmam hi shakshat Bhagavad pranita. Krishna himself directly is the source of the Shastras. Then the guru speaks Shastra, the sadhu speaks Shastra, they follow Shastra. And then, therefore, when you meet a sadhu or you meet a guru, then they're wonderful, they're pure, they're enlivening. That's all we really need to know. But why is it so? It's because they're following Shastra, or because everything they do is in terms of the Shastra. Is that okay?
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji, I understood that. But you rightly said Shastra is the final and but for the devotee who just started, isn't the guru should be the primary for that person? Because Shastra can be interpreted in many different ways. If you do not have a knowledge of that, you should start with the guru first, and guru will explain you the Shastra, and then you can elevate yourself to the next level, right?
Yeah, actually, it's by association that one gets what Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij, by the association of Guru and Krishna, that one gets the seed of devotional service. So I don't mean to say that, anyway, we won't talk about what I don't mean to say, but the spiritual master is not less important or less important in my life because he's following Shastra, or because Shastras are our primary source of evidence. Shastra. I don't mean to say that. If one comes in touch with the bona fide guru, then lavamatra sadhu sange sharpa siddhi hoy. If one comes in touch with a genuine sadhu in one less than a moment, his whole perfection can be achieved. So that's the spiritual master shows the Shastra in action. He transmits the realization of the Shastra. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito. All these things are possible by the mercy of the bona fide spiritual master. The mercy of the bona fide spiritual master is absolutely required. It's not that, as some people say, I just read Bhagavad Gita and that's enough for me. I just read Prabhupada's books and everything's in the books. I just read and that's everything. No. The spiritual master is absolutely required. The person who is unwilling to accept a bona fide spiritual master will not achieve success in the process. The spiritual master is necessary. And the person who meets a bona fide spiritual master, Bhagavan Jeev, he's the most fortunate living entity. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. So that's, yes. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Maharaj, I think you answered my question perfectly, that Prabhupada is basically a living Shastra. He's just, by this, being attached to him, you're following Shastra.
Yeah. Exactly. Prema bhakti jaha hoite avidya vinasha jate. Vede gaya harat sharita. All the Shastras are glorifying the bona fide spiritual master. All right, so I think we've reached the end of our hour.
I've put my video on because you said I'll see you later, so I just want you to see me.
Say that again?
I put my video on because in the email you said I'll see you later.
Oh,
No,
okay, let me enter. There you are. Thank you. Seeing is believing. What a pleasure to see you. There's a verse like that. The perfection of the eyes is to see a pure devotee of the Lord.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, thank you, Maharaj. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
I
you.
wish we could have gone on to the next verse, but we had a lot of questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Maharaj ji.
Thank you, Maharaj, for your wonderful lecture and association.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Hari Bol.
Just to see you is a pleasure, Maharaj. We get good association just by looking at your effulgent face and listening to the pearls of wisdom coming from your mouth. I always feel that whenever I see you, even for a little while, I become so inspired.
It's your kindness, Mataji. I'm just trying to repeat something bona fide.
Maharaj, can we have more classes from you?
Yeah. Sure.
That's great, Maharaj. Thank you so much for your mercy.
Thank you. Nice to see you, if only in name.
Oh, okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Jaya. Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare Bol. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.